Diyos. Maraming salamat po sa buhay at lakas na aming taglay, sa liwanag ng kaisipan at sa pagkakataong maipagpatuloy ang pag-aaral ng mga kabataan. Gabayan mo po ang bawat isa sa amin. Anuman ang bahagi na aming gagampanan, naway maging maayos at matagumpay ang pagtuturo at pag-aaral na aming gagawin sa araw na ito. Patawarin mo po kami sa aming mga pagkulang at pagkakasala. At sa aming paggawa, ikaw po ang aming makasama. Amen.
Ang bayan ko'y tanging ikaw, Pilipinas kong mahal, ang puso ko at buhay man sa iyo'y ibibigay. Tungkulin kong gagampanan na lagi kang paglingkuran, ang laya mo'y papantayan, Pilipinas kong hirang. Ang bayan ko'y tanging ikaw, Pilipinas kong mahal, ang puso ko at buhay man sa iyo'y ibibigay. Tungkulin kong gagampanan na lagi kang paglingkuran, ang laya mo'y babantayan, Pilipinas kong hirang. Ang laya mo'y babantayan, Pilipinas kong hirang.
Hello, learners! Welcome again to our Valenzuela Live. Our subject for today is Statistic and Probability. We are now in Quarter 4, Week 7. I am your teacher guide for today, Elino Pingal from Valenzuela National High School. And our lesson for today is Constructing and Analyzing Scatter Diagram. For the most essential learning competencies, the learner, or you, the learner, should be able to illustrate the nature of bivariate data, construct a scatter plot, describe shape, trend, and variation based on a scatter plot. The lesson will be divided into 5 segments. Firstly, the review facts, or fact-checking. This is an activity which is answerable by true or false. In a way, it will be your way of reviewing the previous lessons. And secondly, the defining bivariate data. In this portion of the lesson, we will discuss what are known as bivariate data. By the way, bivariate data involve 2 variables at a time. Next to that is defining and learning how to draw a scatter diagram or scatter plot. In the shapes, trends, and variations, you will be able to learn the various types of correlation which can be interpreted through the patterns displayed on scatter plots. Checking comprehension. In this section, together we will assess your comprehension of the concept or concepts about scatter plot. So let's begin with the fact check. Learning to check facts by critical thinking. In this activity, you will answer if the statement is true or false. Number 1 statement, the equation of the graph shown here is 2x plus y equals 2. You have 5 seconds to check the fact. Type your answer in the comment box. Write true or false. Your 5 seconds starts now. Time's up. Statement number 1 is true. To fact check this particular statement, you can graph the equation 2x plus y equals 2 by assigning values for x and solving for y. And when you have the 2 points, connect the points and extend the line. By that way, you can check the fact or check the statement if that is true or false. The second statement, the graph shown here represents the equation 3x plus 2y equals 6. 5 seconds to check this fact. Answer in the comment box, true or false. 5 seconds starts now. Time's up. This statement is false. Again, checking this fact by graphing the equation 3x plus 2y equals 6. And the third statement says the x-coordinate of the ordered pair x and y is the vertical distance from the origin. Let's fact check this statement. 5 seconds. Timer starts now. Time's up. This statement is false. To check the fact, the x-coordinate of the ordered pair xy is the horizontal distance from the origin and not the vertical distance from the origin. That's for the fact checking. We move now to defining bivariate data. This portion will focus on what are known as the bivariate data. Bivariate data deals with two variables, usually x and y, that can change and are compared to find relationships. There are two types of bivariate data. One, categorical data, and the other one is numerical data. What is categorical bivariate data? These are data that can be divided into groups such as race, gender, age, or favorite cartoon character. The second one, the numerical bivariate data, are pairs of two quantitative variables often represented as individual points in a plane using a scatter plot. In this particular lesson, we will focus on the numerical bivariate data. Let's go now to the scatter diagram or scatter plot. This is a technique used to describe the relationship between two numerical variables. Furthermore, scatter plot or scatter diagram is a two-dimensional graphical representation of a set of data. Each xy variable is represented on the graph as a dot or a cross. This type of chart can be used to visually describe relationships or correlation between two numerical parameters or to represent distributions. How to draw a scatter diagram? The simple steps is manually done. Number 1, draw the x and y axis. Second, position the independent variable on the x-axis and use appropriate scale. Number 3, position the dependent variable on the y-axis. Also, use appropriate scale. Number 4, plot each ordered pair x and y from the raw data. Let's have an example for this. Draw the scatter diagram. The following table summarizes data on the number of hours that students spent studying and the scores that they earned on their exam. So you can see on the slide is the table with corresponding values for x and y. By the way, x variable is the hours studied or the number of hours the student studied. And the y values represents the exam score. Step number 1, draw the x and y axis. Step number 2, position the independent variable on the x-axis. Use appropriate scale. Now, on the slide, guys, you can see the number are studied along the x-axis with proper scaling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Let's go now to the third step. Position the dependent variable on the y-axis. Again, use appropriate scale. As you can see on the screen, the y-axis represents the exam score and it's appropriately scaled 20 to 100. After this step, you go now to plotting each ordered pair xy from the raw data. The first dot or the first point is the point 2 and 80. The second dot is represented by the point 1 and 75. Continuing plotting the points, the scatter graph or the scatter plot will look like this. Next, how will you draw a scatter diagram using Microsoft Excel? Let's follow the following steps. Number 1, open Microsoft Excel and type the given raw data, meaning the x and y values. Second, highlight data you want to plot. Third, click the Insert tab and click the Recommended Charts section once you open the Insert tab. Number 5, click on the scatter plot icon and then click OK. And the last one, you can edit ranges, axis titles, chart title, and anything else you want to adjust. Let's have an example to learn how to draw a scatter diagram in Excel. The first step, or the example for this particular problem, you draw the scatter diagram using Excel. The following table summarizes this. This is the same problem as we did in the manual drawing of the scatter diagram. Anyway, let me read the problem again. The following table summarizes data on the number of hours that the students spent studying and the scores that they earned on their exam. First step, open Microsoft Excel and type the given raw data. On the screen, you can see the picture of the Microsoft Excel and the values for X and Y encoded. Okay? The values are from the given table from the previous slide. Okay? Second step, highlight data you want to plot. As you can see, the picture, on the picture, the values are highlighted. Third, click the Insert tab and you can see the following tabs. Okay? After this, find the Recommended Charts section, then click. And when you click that, a dialog box will appear such as shown in the image. Fifth step, click on the scatter plot icon and then click OK. After that, you will see this scatter plot for this particular problem. Same as with the manual drawing of the scatter diagram shown in the example a while ago. Okay? And you can edit ranges, axis titles, chart title, and anything else you want to adjust. In here, we adjusted or we edit the title, chart title, the axis titles. Y-axis represents exam score and x-axis represents our study. That's a simple step in using Excel to draw or generate scatter diagram. You can also check the following link to create or generate scatter diagram. 1, the scatter plot generator. Rapid table scatter plot maker, and number 3, scatter plot maker. Next is shapes, trends, and variations. What are the shapes of scatter plots? There are various types of correlation which can be interpreted through the patterns displayed on scatter plots. And these are, number 1, positive, meaning the values increase together. And the second one, the negative, meaning one value decreases as the other increases, and vice versa. The third one, which is null, meaning no correlation at all between the two variables. The positive correlation, the values increase together as the independent variable increases. The dependent variables or the dependent variable also increases. When this happens, we say that there is a positive linear relationship between the two variables. Example, on the graph shown, as weeks pass by during the pandemic, the number of COVID cases increases. This is a positive linear relationship. The points lie, and one thing that you will observe for positive correlation, the points lie close to a straight line which has a positive gradient. By the way, the red-orange line is called the trend line. Negative. As the independent variable increases, the dependent variable decreases. When this happens, we say that there is a negative linear relationship between the two variables. Example, as the absences of the student increases, his or her general average decreases. And so, this is a negative linear relationship. To observe also in negative correlation, the points lie close to a straight line which has a negative gradient. Null or no correlation between the two variables. If there is no apparent relationship between the two variables, then there is no correlation. An example is shown on the slide. There is no positive relationship nor negative relationship. No correlation between the two variables. How do you describe the trend in a scatter plot? Scatter plots show a positive trend if y tends to increase as x increases, or if y tends to decrease as the x decreases. Scatter plots show a negative trend if one value tends to decrease and the other tends to decrease. On the slide on your screen, scatter diagram that show the direction. Letter A, positive and linear. Letter B, negative and linear. Letter C, the relationship is called negative but non-linear. And of course, for letter B, no relationship or null. No correlation at all. Next, examples of scatter diagrams that show strength. On the far left, the relationship is strong positive correlation because all of the dots is closer to the trend line or the orange line. While on the other hand, yung nasa right side, we have the weak positive correlation since there are dots or points that are far from the trend line. These points or dots far from the line or the trend line are called outliers. Scatter plots and correlations again. For strong negative correlation, observe that the dots are closer or close. Most of the dots are close to the trend line. While for the weak negative correlation, there are dots that are far from the trend line. And of course, no correlation because the dots are all separated. You cannot see any correlation linearly. Let's go now to checking comprehension. Choose the best answer for number 1. What type of association does this graph have? Letter A, positive. B, negative. Or C, none. You have 5 seconds to think of the answer for this problem. Time starts now. Time's up. The correct answer is a negative relation. Since the driver age, as this value increases, the y values decreases, or the sign legibly distance. Second, what correlation is the number of your siblings, or what correlation is the number of siblings you have and your weight? What do you think? Is it letter A, positive correlation, B, negative correlation, or C, no correlation between the two values or variables? 5 seconds. Time starts now. Time's up. The relation has no correlation at all. Since your number of siblings does not correlate with your weight. Meaning, even though you have many siblings, your weight is not affected by how many siblings you have. So number 2 has no correlation. Number 3, which scatter plot shows a linear relationship between x and y? Look at the figures. Is it A, B, C, or D? Again, let me repeat the question. Which scatter plot shows a linear relationship between x and y? A? Is it A, B, C, or D? 5 seconds to think of the answer. Timer starts now. Time's up. The correct answer is letter C. Letter A is not a linear relationship, as well as B, while D has no correlation between the two variables. Number 4 question. As the age of the car increases, its value decreases. Which scatter plot represents this relationship? Is it A, B, C, or D? Again, let me repeat the question. As the age of the car increases, its value decreases. Which scatter plot represents this relationship? A, B, C, or D? 5 seconds. Type your answer on the comment box. Timer starts now. Time's up. The correct answer is letter C. This relationship between the age of the car and the value is a negative correlation. Because the age of the car increases, as the car gets older, its value decreases or decline. Number 5, describe the correlation in the graph shown. Is it letter A, strong negative, B, weak negative, C, strong positive, or D, weak positive? Again, describe the correlation in the graph shown. Is it A, strong negative, B, weak negative, C, strong positive, or D, weak positive? 5 seconds. 5 seconds starts now. Time's up. The graph has a strong positive correlation. To recap the lesson for today, number 1, scatter graphs, also referred to as scatter plots or scatter diagrams, are graphs with points that show the relationship between two variables. Number 2, the variables of a scatter graph are either independent or dependent. The independent variable is not influenced by anything and is plotted on the x-axis, while the dependent variable is affected by the independent variable and plotted on the y-axis. Number 3, the bivariate data. It deals with two variables that can change and are compared to find relationship. Number 4, the two types of bivariate data are categorical and numerical bivariate data. Number 5, to be able to identify the relationship between two variables using the scatter plot, position the straight line or the trend line in such a way that you can pierce as many dots as possible. If most of the dots fall close to the line, then there is a strong linear relationship, either positive or negative. Otherwise, it is weak or no relationship at all. Before I end, let me leave you with these words from Ralph Marston. Excellence is not a skill, but an attitude. Bye now, and thank you.